Previously, I've covered the efficiency of the Ioniq EV 28 kilowatt hours, and that was using a sample of driving data recorded over a period of time. Today, I come back to this to update the curve, having driven more than 20,000 kilometers and therefore having collected even more data. So we've driven between February 2022 and December 2023. This is more than 20,000 kilometers or 12,000 miles. And our average is 4.5 miles per kilowatt hours or 138 watt hours per kilometer. This is better than the 151 watt hours per kilometer reported by EV database. Before we look at the curve efficiency as a function of speed, I wanted to show you this graph where you've got the state of charge, in other words, how much of the battery has been used to do one leg of a trip. And over here, we've got the energy delivered by the battery. So, for instance, here we had about 23 kilowatt hours that were used to go from 100% to 10% of battery. What this shows us is that in the main, we've got anywhere between 21 and 23 kilowatt hours, and that's typically what we use when we start a leg of a journey at 100% and we drive it down to the minimum. So the Ioniq 28 kilowatt hours, if you are looking at how much you're going to be consuming for a leg of a journey, that's going to be somewhere between 21 and 23 kilowatt hours. And that's the real usable capacity for the car. Now, over to the actual efficiency as a function of speed in kilometer per hour. So you can see that the curve has a minimum. And typically you would want to be in the 70 kilometers an hour to have the optimal speed where it comes to efficiency. Now, it doesn't mean that we are recommending driving at 70 kilometers an hour. That's not at all the point. The point is that this is the sweet spot for this car. And in fact, probably for many other cars, not just EVs, when it comes to the best efficiency as a function of the drag that you're getting from the air versus the energy that you need to shift the car and put it into motion. So let's zoom in a little. You can see that each and every dot is effectively one or a few kilometers of driving. We've adjusted for altitude because we know that when you go up, you are losing gravitational potential energy, and then when you go down, you recover that, and the Ioniq is very good at recovering that energy. Therefore, we've adjusted all of that. You can see that around 100 to 110 kilometers per hour, we've got a massive amount of data, and that's a function of the fact that we live in the UK, but we also drive quite a bit in France, where yes, the speeds are a bit higher than 110, but not always. So like we said, 60 to 70 is probably your optimal speed. And at those speeds, you are going to consume something like 110 watt hours per kilometer, which is very low. If you are going up to 90, your average will be 128 watt hours per kilometer. At 100, we are now looking at 140 watt hours per kilometer. And then at 110, you're looking at about 151, 152. So just above the 150. So if we go back to what EV database was saying, this 150 watt hours per kilometer is essentially the speed of 110 kilometers per hour. So that's very good. And that's in fact the maximum speed for the UK. So that means in general, you'll be around this space. These are data points that have been gathered both in winter, UK winter, so not very cold, and summer all the way to 30, 35 degrees Celsius, right? So quite a bit of a range, nothing very, very cold. We're not in Northern Europe or Canada or anything like that, but still the heat pump is doing a great job of dampening, of softening the effects of winter versus summer. There remains the debate as to whether you would take the car to the 130 kilometers per hour, which is essentially the maximum speed in some of the countries, like France, for instance. And at that speed, you can see that the efficiency decreases very quickly. So you're now at 190 watt hours per kilometer. And even at 120, you're already much more efficient. So 120 gives you 170 watt hours per kilometer. And that's probably a sweet spot for that car because it has a small battery, it has a small range, and therefore you want to have a decent balance between the time you're spending to charge and the time that you're spending driving the car. And I think the 115, 120 is really a good spot for that. Of course, you're saving quite a bit of energy as you're driving at those speeds as well. So I think that's pretty much it in terms of what the curve looks like. You can have a look for yourself, but that gives you the actual curve for the Ioniq 28 kilowatt hours. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you next time.